Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and it's great to be back on the show. I've been reading this book titled The End and the Start Point of the Black Man. Now that's an intriguing title, The End and the Start Point of the Black Man. Maybe you're like me, you've always wondered, what is the issue with the black man? That's a topic a lot of us discuss all the time, and people ask, are we genetically challenged? Are we historically challenged, spiritually challenged, and all sorts of things? But nah, you need to read this book, The End and the Start Point of the Black Man. It's a fascinating read. Although I just started reading it now. It's written by Michael A. Abiodun. Michael A. Abiodun is a gentleman. You'll be seeing him very soon on this show. A blind man who has written 25 books. I spoke to him and I said, shame on me when he told me that. But I mean, 25 books, and he wrote those 25 books within 6 years. You're about to meet him very soon on this show. But there's another gentleman with the same physical challenge who is a special guest on this show today. Now, the idea is to get this gentleman to inspire the rest of us. If you think you have a challenge, then you need to watch and listen to this fascinating gentleman. Now, this guest on our show today has done fantastic things with his life, despite his physical challenge, and he's risen right to the pinnacle of his career, and he is an author. Let's get to meet with him and then enjoy the conversation we had.
Elijah Akinyemi is a retired civil servant and an advocate for persons with disabilities. He is an alumnus of Pacheli School for Blind Children, Lagos, Igbobi College, Lagos, Eastern Washington University, Cheney, Washington, and Portland State University, Portland, Oregon. Akinyemi, who worked for 36 years at the Ogun State Ministry of Education, retired as the permanent secretary in the state civil service on 28 June 2018. During his service, Akinyemi transformed special needs education in the state by championing the creation of programs for the betterment of the physical, health, emotional, and competitive spirits of disadvantaged children. He joins Channels Book Club to discuss his book, Vision Beyond Sight.
Thanks for joining us on Channels Book Club, Mr. Akinyemi.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. I mean, it's exciting to meet you. It's actually an honor. Going through your story, it's a very remarkable story. We talk about heroes, the need for heroes in Nigeria. I think you are one of the heroes of this country.
That is quite appreciative.
Thank you, sir. Vision Beyond Sight. Even that title alone says it all. In many ways, it summarizes the story of your life, doesn't it?
It does. Because people feel that sightless people cannot do much and they're not part of society. But I proved it that with vision, which is in the inner self, one can get to the top of anything he strives for.
Incredible. We will talk a lot more about that and some of the things we've been able to achieve despite, you know, this very difficult limitation, as the rest of us will put it. Now, your story started when you were age 2, according to your autobiography. I would like you to say a little bit more about this. You had, was it age 2 or not? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but very early in your life, soon after you were born, you had measles. There was a measles attack
Yes.
in your environment, and that affected you, and that took away your sight. Can you speak a little bit more about this experience, and then use that as a basis for introducing this book to the viewers out there?
Yes, I should really thank my stars and my parents for the concern they had for me and the belief they had despite my loss of sight at the age of 2 due to measles. Why I should thank my stars is that many children died, and many also got deformed, whereby they did not get the kind of assistance which I got. But then, when every hope was seemed to be lost, there came in a man, Bangba Yawu, who was a traditional healer in those days, moving from one village to another, practicing his trade. He introduced me to the Pacheli school, and my parents could not believe that. How would a child that cannot see go to school when they themselves, even with their eyes, unfortunately they were illiterate, but they could not believe. They just thought, maybe it was a ploy to get me, their child, away from them to be killed, and they were not, too welcoming about the idea initially. But later they bought the idea through the Ikeja General Hospital, and I was taken to Pacheli, from where the story began.
Wow, incredible story. Can you tell, I mean, a lot of people are watching and listening right now, and I'm sure many are curious. Let's introduce this book, this your autobiography, Vision Beyond Sight, to them. Whoever picks up this book, what is he likely to find in here? What have you written in this book?
Yes, Vision Beyond Sight is actually an account that encourages parents and guardians of people with disabilities themselves, and even government, teachers, administrators, the general public, on the need for inclusion of all and sundry. To shy away from the estrangement of people with disabilities and to adopt diversity. For in all persons are hidden potentials to be harnessed for nation building. And notwithstanding disability, creed, or status, everybody is a contributor to the growth of our nation, Nigeria. And given the opportunity, I, as an individual, have been able to contribute my own quota toward the building of this great nation. And many other people can do similar things.
Let's put this in context. You are 64 years old, if I'm right.
Yes.
So, for 62 years, you've had the challenge of not having the
ability to
see. Yeah, you put it correctly for me. Now, that's amazing, 62 years. Nevertheless, in those 62 years, you've been able to achieve very remarkable things, given your limitations. I would like you to talk to me about this. I know you've written a lot of these things, in your book. But looking back 62 years, and here you are today, how do you summarize that whole experience of living that life without your sight, and yet, having to face the challenges that other people with sights have, and surmounting those challenges?
Thank you for that. The first thing is this: acceptance. I lost my sight when I really did not know what sight was all about at the age of 2. So I grew up, not having to rely solely on sight, but other senses which God has created in every being. I was able to utilize those senses, and those senses really guaranteed me the path of success which I have. Another thing I know that really favored me was the kindness of people. I was very fortunate to be around kind people. And even in times of hardship, these are hardships not because I'm blind alone that these hardships are coming, but it happens to everybody. But it seemed like that my blindness actually was a kind of eye-opener for people to be conscious. And when at work, I was able to do much, at least in the area of inclusion and acceptance of people with disabilities, that people can work in any system as long as they have good education and the materials to do so. I was very, very opportune to be the first civil servant on the senior cadre in the Ogun State Civil Service. Some people doubted it, but people were very pragmatic, and I had really pragmatic people who would throw challenges to me. It's just unfortunate that in our country, people see the physical aspect more than the intellectual aspect of people and the spiritual aspect of people. But one thing I observed is that in Nigeria, people are willing to learn. And the moment they know your value, people forget that physical aspect and dwell more upon those things you can do. So even at work, initially people thought, how would a blind person function in the system? But within a year, I was being publicized all over the place, given the opportunity to do my job. And despite the fact that materials were not provided, I knew that I had to make a sacrifice myself. And part of my salary went upon development of my skills. And I thank God today that, I had the best of it all by being crowned and rising to the peak of my career as permanent secretary at the point of my retirement.
That's still so amazing. Permanent secretary.
Yes.
It's still so amazing. Now, you are the first blind author that I'll ever interview. I've never interviewed anybody like you, and you can then imagine my appreciation and my fascination when I laid hands on your book. Igbobi College, and then you went on, had your BSc, you had your master's degree, you had quite a distinguished academic career, and then got into the civil service over many years, became permanent secretary, and here you are today. When you look back over those years, and as you wrote this story, if you were to sit in front of 1,000 young people, given your experiences, given the memories that came to your mind as you wrote this book, what is that one thing you will leave with them?
The thing I would leave with them is that parents are the greatest custodians of children. If my parents had killed me, I would not be where I am today. And it's unfortunate that many parents in our country are still locking up their children. Some are maiming them, some are calling children with disabilities witches and wizards. But one thing I cannot forget is my community, Bali Akinyemi village, my parents, and all the teachers that came in at the time of my need.
So they built a hedge of support around you.
Exactly.
Incredible. Wow, it's been an honor speaking with you, and I really wish everybody out there will pick up a copy of this book because it is so inspiring. Your life is so inspiring, and you poured it into this few pages, 214 pages. Wow, thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club.
I thank you so much for the opportunity, and I quite appreciate it for your inclusiveness, and wish many more opportunities like this for other people with disabilities.
It will always be an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Inspiring, isn't it? You need to sit down with this gentleman for you to get a feel of what I mean by him being a very inspiring man. Now, up next is a book launch. Dr. Godswill Ihetu, a man who achieved wonderful things in his career and has written this fascinating autobiography that you need to get your hands on. He just launched the book recently, and we were there. Enjoy this.
It all begins with music and cocktails as guests arrive for the presentation of Dr. Godswill Ihetu's autobiography, From Oloibiri to Bonny. Ihetu, whose experience in the public and private sectors of the oil and gas industry spanned over 40 years, has had the single honor of serving as the managing director of the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Company twice. Ihetu retired as the Group Executive Director, Engineering and Technology, Directorate of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in 1999 and later ventured into the private sector where he served as a consultant and driven marginal field development in the sector. The chairman of the occasion, Dr. Imo Itsweli, who fondly calls the author GSI, describes the book as the story of Nigeria's oil industry in his opening remarks.
If I take the chairman's liberties, and I shall do that just briefly, and stretch the GSI story, going beyond his working life to bring in his birth and early life, that is from 1940 to 1959, I can claim, and I dare to claim, that these were the nation's active petroleum exploration years, leading to the discovery in 1956.
In his evaluation of the government participation in the petroleum industry, the keynote speaker of the occasion, Bite Adeniji, emphasizes the need to ask questions.
If we were to stop to take an objective view of this state of affairs, one might question, why such a monumentally significant event has not been subject to an independent judicial inquiry to allow the country and the administration to fully understand the remote and immediate causes of the loss of production of our economic oxygen.
The author reveals the motivation behind the book.
My motivation is to share knowledge. I wrote this book in the realization that I was privileged to have participated in the growth of the National Oil Company and the oil and gas industry, which represented the commanding heights of the Nigerian economy. I am hoping that this book gives industry executives and managers good lessons and historical materials.
And it's time for the unveiling. Speaking on the journey of its conceptualization and actualization, the publisher explains what readers should expect from the new autobiography.
The book is one that tells us a story of the past and gives us insights for the future.
The executive governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, who is the chief presenter of the book, shares his thoughts on the book and the author.
It's also a book of hope that all is not lost and that the country that's produced someone like Dr. Ihetu will, produce many more like. And also that even as we transit from a hydrocarbon-based economy, that all is still not lost.
From Oloibiri to Bonny is a 327-page book that captures Ihetu's knowledge of Nigeria's oil and gas industry and his journey through life.
Before we wrap up the show today, let's get to meet with Ronke Giwa Onafuwa. She reads from her book and, of course, introduces it to us. Enjoy this.
Hi, my name is Ronke Giwa Onafuwa, author of Lara's Lessons. So I'm going to be reading from chapter 9, A Lesson About Association. The next day at school, Lara told Tenny she would not be going with her to see Femi and Shegun again. I I almost got into trouble yesterday. I can't risk letting my parents down. If they found out that I've been leaving school to hang out with a bunch of 26-year-olds. Lara couldn't even finish her statement. The thought sent shivers down her spine. Don't worry, we'll be more careful next time, Tenny assured. No, I'm not going anymore, thank you. For a few days, Tenny didn't try to persuade Lara to go outside the school. She went on her own, and when she got back, she told Lara how Shegun missed her so much. She gave Lara constant updates about Shegun, and one day, she brought a handwritten note from Shegun to Lara. The note simply said, I have missed you. Lara sighed and crumbled the paper. 1 week later, Tenny walked into class and sat beside Lara. Today is Shegun's birthday, she stated matter-of-factly. And he says he needs to see you. You know I've stopped trying to convince you to come with me, but come on, it's the guy's birthday. The least you could do is surprise him. Lara looked unsure. Come on, Lara will be back long before your dad comes to pick you, I promise. Okay, Lara said quietly. And during lunchtime, they both quietly slipped out of school. The car was already waiting, and as Lara opened the door, Shegun was already smiling so widely. He hugged her tightly, telling her how much he had missed her. Then they drove to the house, and Lara sat on the sofa as usual. It's my birthday, Lara. Come on, let's go inside. Nothing will happen. Lara looked very nervous and sighed. When they got into the room, she heard him lock the door. Her heart started beating faster and faster. She looked suspiciously at him. Relax, he said, moving closer until he was close enough. Then he grabbed her and started pulling roughly at her clothes. Stop it, she said in a stern voice. Stop it now, or else I will scream. Shegun laughed as he continued to struggle with her clothes. Lara's voice became desperate as she began to plead with him. Please, don't do this to me. I'm begging you. She rubbed her palms together. So, you have been coming here and I've watched you leave every time without laying a finger on you. Not today, he said, trying to kiss her as she resisted and pushed. If you scream, nobody will hear you or come to your help. Your friend is enjoying herself with my friend, he laughed. I don't know why you can't be more like her. Why do you have to be difficult? Shegun had become angry as he pulled harder at her clothes. A part of her top ripped in his hands. Then he pushed down to the bed. Lara started to cry as she begged, struggled, and finally screamed loudly. Seconds later, someone started banging on the door. Shegun, open the door now. Tenny's voice came through the door. Mind your business, Tenny. She's fine. She's just pretending. Lara took advantage of his distraction to push him off. Though he had successfully removed her top at this point, but she grabbed it, dashed to the door. Crying and struggling to put on her torn top, she opened the door and ran out. Lara, stop! Tenny came running after her. Leave me alone, Tenny, Lara growled, whipping and shaking. Just leave me alone, she said as she continued walking away. I didn't know he would try to rape you, Lara. I am so sorry. At the mention of the word rape, Lara froze. She realized she had actually just been a few seconds from getting raped. Her breathing became heavier as panic washed over her, thinking of what had just happened to her. Lara? Tenny tried to hold her, but Lara snapped at her. Leave me alone and don't ever talk to me again, she screamed as she kept walking, waved down a bike and returned to school. She was unusually quiet for the rest of the day. Lara waited by the gate, and when she spotted her dad's car, she opened the door and jumped in very quickly. Startled, her dad paused and looked at her. Do you want to talk about it? He asked. Lara broke down in tears. Her dad waited patiently for her to stop crying. Then Lara told her dad everything. That chapter I just read from is a lesson about association, and it's actually loosely based on a personal experience. And it's where Lara had been hanging out with this girl, Tenny, who then introduces her to some older guys, and then she almost got raped. And basically that lesson is just to show and to obviously or to prove that the association that we keep can greatly impact us. Lara's Lesson is a book that is for young girls, inspired by my journey as an adolescent when I was younger. And of course, it's a book about different life lessons that I believe that young girls, adolescents, and even boys, I think, should learn in life. There's a lesson about money, a lesson about speaking up, a lesson about being your authentic self. And like I said, the lesson I read about is a lesson about association. And I really do hope that, you know, as many people as possible will read this book, because even if you're older, it will help you to relive your teenage years. And of course, if you're an adolescent or you know one, I really think you should pick up a copy of Lara's Lessons at the bookstore near to you and enjoy reading it. I hope you do.
And this is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be very happy, very delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Onafuwa Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.